They weren't born in Byzantium. They came from the frozen north. Men of fire, iron, and oaths. And in Constantinople, they became the most feared bodyguards in the medieval world. The Varangian Guard. Follow Arena of Ages, where history's greatest warriors live again. From raiders to bodyguards, the Varangian Guard began with outsiders. In the 10th century, Norsemen, Vikings turned adventurers, traveled east through Russia's rivers, offering their axes to the Byzantine emperors. Byzantium, the jewel of the medieval world, was rich but vulnerable. The emperors didn't trust their own nobles with their lives, but these foreign warriors, bound only by gold and oath, were loyal to the throne alone. Who were the Varangians? They came from Scandinavia, from Russes, and later from England after the Norman conquest drove warriors into exile. Men who had lived by the axe and the sword now found a new life in the Empire of Constantinople. To be a Varangian wasn't just to fight, it was to stand at the very center of power, guarding the emperor himself. Training and discipline. The Varangians were no ordinary mercenaries. They trained relentlessly, drilling in formations and adapting their northern style of war to Byzantine tactics. Their weapon of choice was the massive two-handed Dane axe, capable of cleaving through armor and shields with a single blow. They also carried swords, shields, and mail armor, but the axe was their symbol, a weapon as terrifying as their reputation. The oath of loyalty. What made them unique was not just their weapons, but their loyalty. Varangians swore to serve the emperor with absolute faith. They were foreigners with no ties to local politics, so their allegiance could not be bought by scheming nobles. Emperors trusted them with their lives, their palaces, and even their treasures. In battle. When the Varangians took the field, they fought as shock troops. Their tall frames, heavy axes, and ferocious charges often broke enemy lines where ordinary soldiers failed. Chroniclers wrote of their fury in battle, cutting down men and horses alike, their great axes swinging in deadly arcs. In the chaos of medieval war, the Varangians were the hammer blow of Byzantium, guardians of ceremony. But they weren't just warriors of war. In Constantinople, the Varangians stood as the emperor's ceremonial guard. They carried banners and golden axes in parades, their presence a display of imperial might. To see them was to be reminded the emperor was protected by giants. Legends and loyalty. Over the centuries, the Varangian Guard became legend. They were said to fight to the last man, never abandoning their oath. Even when emperors fell in battle, the Varangians stood their ground, defending his body to the end. This loyalty made them famous across Europe and feared by Byzantium's enemies. The end of the Guard. The Varangian Guard endured for centuries, but as Byzantium declined, so too did their power. By the 14th century, the Guard faded into history, yet their legend remained. Northern warriors who became the shield of the empire, their axes gleaming in the halls of Constantinople. The Varangian Guard were more than mercenaries. They were outsiders turned into symbols of loyalty, strength, and fear. The question is, if you were emperor, would you trust your life to anyone else?